The shot rang out like thunder over the dusty streets of Copper Ridge as Sadie Vance watched her family's general store burn to the ground, her heart heavier than the smoke that billowed toward the Montana sky. It wasn't the store she mourned, it was what happened during the chaos when a group of riders had stormed through town and taken her 12-year-old sister Lily. The year was 1875, and in this corner of Montana territory, law was still as scarce as rain in August. They took her east, Miss Vance. Toward the mountains. Sheriff Miller's voice cracked with age and defeat as he slumped against his saddle horn. "I'm sorry, but with my deputies gone to Helena, I can't spare the men for a proper search party." Sadie's hands trembled as she clutched her sister's abandoned ribbon. At 22, she had raised Lily since their parents died of fever 3 years prior. The store had been their livelihood, their home above it now nothing but charred timber. "Who would do this?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the crackling of dying embers. "Calloway gang, most likely. They've been hitting towns up and down the territory, taking what they want." The sheriff couldn't finish the thought. A shadow fell across Sadie's tear-streaked face. She looked up to see a tall figure silhouetted against the setting sun. His clothes were trail-worn, his face partially hidden beneath the brim of a dark Stetson, but it was his eyes clear and sharp as a winter sky that caught her attention. "Hunter Zane," he introduced himself simply, extending a weathered hand. "Heard the commotion from the trail." "I track men for a living, miss." "A bounty hunter?" Sadie asked warily, "when there's a price on their heads, but I've been known to find what's lost, regardless." His voice was low, measured. "My sister," Sadie began, her voice breaking. "I know," Hunter interrupted gently. "Word travels fast, even on the trail." He looked toward the direction the gang had fled, then back at Sadie. "I'll bring her back to you." 4 simple words that somehow made the air around them still. "I can't pay you, Mr. Zane. Everything we had was in that store." His expression didn't change. "Some debts aren't settled with money, Miss Vance." Before Sadie could respond, Hunter was already striding toward the livery. She hurried after him, her skirts gathering dust as she crossed the street. "Wait. You don't even know what she looks like." Hunter paused, one hand on his saddle. "Tell me." 12 years old, blonde hair like mine but shorter, blue calico dress. She has a small birthmark shaped like a crescent moon behind her right ear. Sadie's voice hitched. "She's smart, Mr. Zane, too smart sometimes. If they've taken her for ransom, they don't know our situation." Hunter nodded once, absorbing the information. "Do you have something of hers, something with her scent?" Sadie hesitated only briefly before retrieving the ribbon from her pocket. "This was in her hair this morning." Their fingers brushed as she handed it to him. Hunter carefully tucked the ribbon into his vest pocket near his heart. "I'll ride at first light," he said, checking his rifle. "I'm coming with you," Sadie declared, lifting her chin. Hunter's eyes narrowed. "No, madam, where I'm going is no place for a woman." Sadie interrupted, fire replacing the grief in her eyes. "Mr. Zane, that's my sister, the only family I have left. I'm coming with you if I have to steal a horse and follow your tracks myself." For a long moment, Hunter studied her. The determination in her stance, the fierce protectiveness in her eyes. He recognized it the look of someone who would never quit, never surrender. It was the same look he saw in his own reflection on quiet nights under the stars. "Can you ride, really ride?" he asked finally, "since I was 5. "And I can shoot, too." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "First light, Miss Vance. Pack light but pack warm. The mountains get cold, even in summer." As dawn broke over the eastern ridge, Sadie waited outside what remained of the store, a small rucksack at her feet. She had traded her torn dress for a pair of riding trousers and a flannel shirt, clothes she kept for inventory days. Her golden hair was braided tightly and tucked under a wide-brimmed hat. A revolver, her father's old Navy Colt, was holstered at her hip. Hunter appeared on a midnight black stallion, leading a dappled mare behind him. His expression revealed nothing when he saw her attire, merely nodding in approval. "Ever track before?" he asked as he helped secure her belongings to the saddle. "Only deer with my father." "This will be different," he warned. "These men leave signs, but they're not fools. They'll try to cover their trail." They rode in silence for the first hour, the morning sun warming their backs as they followed hoofprints and broken brush eastward. Sadie watched Hunter carefully, noting how he would occasionally dismount to examine tracks or touch grass crushed by passing horses. His movements were deliberate, economical. A man who wasted nothing, not words, not energy. "You've done this before," she observed. "Tracked men, I mean." Hunter's gaze remained on the ground. "Since the war. Learned to read sign from a Cherokee scout in my regiment. After Appomattox, there wasn't much waiting for me back home in Missouri. So you became a bounty hunter, among other things." He remounted and adjusted his hat. "8 men in this group, 1 horse carrying double. That'll be your sister." Sadie's heart clenched. "How do you know she's still alive?" Hunter turned to face her fully. "Because dead weight rides different. The horse carrying them is moving easy, too easy for a corpse." It was cold comfort, but comfort nonetheless. They rode on, crossing a shallow river where Hunter lost the trail briefly before finding it again on the far bank. By midday, they had reached the foothills of the mountains. "They're headed for Grizzly Pass," Hunter said, frowning at the terrain ahead. "Rough country, not many settlements, mostly mining camps and hideouts." "You know where they're going?" Hunter nodded slowly. "I have an idea. Calloway gang has a cabin up near Eagle's Nest. Old mining claim that played out years ago." "How far?" 2 days hard riding if we push." Sadie straightened in her saddle. "Then we push." That night they made camp in a small grove of pines. Hunter built a fire small enough to warm them but not large enough to signal their position. As they shared a simple meal of jerky and hardtack, Sadie noticed a long scar running along Hunter's forearm, exposed when he rolled up his sleeve to wash in a nearby creek. "Shiloh," he said, catching her gaze. "Confederate bayonet. I was 19. "You don't seem like a soldier," Sadie remarked. A shadow crossed his face. "War changes a man, makes him something else." "And what did it make you, Mr. Zane?" "Careful," he answered after a long pause. "And alone." Sadie studied him across the firelight. "Yet here you are, helping a stranger for no reward." "Some rewards aren't counted in dollars, Miss Vance." Later, as they prepared to sleep, Hunter explained their plan for the coming days. "We'll gain ground tomorrow if we ride hard, but we need to be cautious approaching their territory. Calloway isn't known for his hospitality." "What can you tell me about him?" Sadie asked, wrapping herself in a blanket. "Silas Calloway. Used to run with Quantrill during the war, developed a taste for taking what wasn't his." Hunter poked at the dying embers. "He's wanted in 3 territories for murder, robbery, and worse." "And he has my sister," Sadie whispered. Hunter's gaze met hers across the dying fire. Not for long. True to his word, they rode hard the next day. Sadie's muscles screamed in protest, but she kept pace, refusing to be the reason they slowed. By mid-afternoon, they had entered a landscape of jagged rocks and steep ravines. The air grew thinner, cooler. "Look there." Hunter pointed to the horizon where a thin plume of smoke rose. "Camp, but not our quarry. That's a Shoshone hunting party." "How can you tell?" "Calloway wouldn't risk a fire that size. And the location, it's too exposed." They gave the hunting party a wide berth, continuing their climb into increasingly rugged terrain. As dusk approached, they found themselves at the edge of a small plateau overlooking a valley. "We'll rest here," Hunter decided. "Too dangerous to navigate these trails in darkness." As they set up camp, a distant sound caught Sadie's attention, a man's laughter carried on the wind. "Mr. Zane," she whispered urgently. Hunter was already moving, extinguishing their small fire with dirt. He motioned for her to follow him to the edge of the plateau. Below, perhaps half a mile away, lights flickered between trees. "That's them," he confirmed. "They've stopped for the night, earlier than I expected." "Can we reach them?" Sadie asked, her heart racing. Hunter shook his head. "Not safely in this light. We'd risk breaking the horse's legs on these slopes." He studied the lights below. "We'll approach before dawn, when most men's guards are lowest." Reluctantly, Sadie agreed. They retreated to their camp, eating a cold supper in darkness. The night air grew bitterly cold and Sadie found herself shivering despite her blanket. "Here," Hunter said gruffly, offering his coat. "You're no good to your sister if you freeze." "I can't take your I've weathered worse," he insisted. Desert nights in Arizona territory make this feel like summer. Sadie accepted the coat, wrapping it around her shoulders. It smelled of leather, tobacco, and something indefinably Hunter. "Thank you," she murmured. Then, after a pause, "Why are you really helping us, Mr. Zane?" In the darkness, she couldn't see his expression, but his voice came soft and low. "I had a sister once, Catherine. She was taken during a raid on our farm when I was away fighting. By the time I got home, he trailed off." "I'm sorry," Sadie whispered. "It was a long time ago." But the pain in his voice suggested otherwise. "Get some sleep, Miss Vance. Tomorrow will test us both." They rose before the first hint of dawn, preparing in silence. Hunter checked and rechecked his weapons, a Winchester rifle, 2 revolvers, and a hunting knife. Sadie loaded her father's Colt with steady hands. "Stay behind me," Hunter instructed as they began their descent toward the outlaw camp. "If anything happens to me, you take the horses and ride back to Copper Ridge. Understand?" Sadie nodded, though they both knew she had no intention of leaving without Lily. They left the horses secured in a hidden gully and proceeded on foot. As they drew closer, the camp came into view, 4 tents arranged around a dying fire. A man sat slumped against a tree, presumably on watch but clearly dozing. Hunter signaled for Sadie to stay put, then moved like a shadow toward the perimeter. She watched, breath held, as he approached the sleeping guard. In one fluid motion, Hunter rendered the man unconscious with the butt of his pistol. He motioned for Sadie to join him, pointing to the smallest tent at the edge of the camp. They crept forward, freezing when a horse nickered softly from a makeshift corral. "That tent," Hunter whispered. "I count 7 men sleeping. Your sister must be in there." Sadie nodded, heart pounding. They were merely feet away when a branch snapped beneath her boot. The sound, though small, was enough. A man emerged from one of the larger tents, scratching his beard and reaching for a rifle propped nearby. Hunter moved instantly, lunging forward to tackle the man before he could raise an alarm. They grappled silently, rolling dangerously close to the embers. Sadie didn't hesitate. She darted for the small tent, pulling back the flap. Inside, curled on a bedroll with hands bound, was Lily. Her face was dirt-streaked, her dress torn, but her eyes widened with recognition. "Sadie," she gasped. "SHH," Sadie cautioned, quickly cutting her sister's bonds with Hunter's knife. "We have to move, now." Behind them, the sounds of struggle had intensified. Sadie glanced back to see Hunter now fighting 2 men, having subdued the first but alerted another. She hurried Lily outside, keeping low and moving toward the trees where they'd entered the camp. "Run for those pines," she instructed Lily, pressing the knife into her hand. "Don't stop, don't look back." "But what about you?" Lily protested. "I'll be right behind you. Go." As Lily fled, Sadie turned back, drawing her father's revolver. Hunter was now outnumbered 3-1, fighting desperately as more outlaws emerged from their tents. Without hesitation, Sadie fired into the air. The shot rang out, momentarily freezing everyone in place. "The next one won't miss," she warned, aiming at the largest man, presumably Calloway himself. "Mr. Zane, come to me now." Hunter seized the moment of confusion to break free, backing toward Sadie with his Winchester raised. Blood trickled from a cut above his eye, but his gaze remained steady. "You've lost something that doesn't belong to you," Hunter addressed Calloway. "We're taking her home." Calloway spat on the ground. "That girl is my insurance. Hand her back and maybe I'll let you 2 walk out of here." "She's already gone," Sadie replied, her gun unwavering. "And you won't follow if you value your lives." One of the outlaws lunged forward and Hunter's rifle cracked in response. The man fell, clutching his shoulder. The others hesitated, giving Hunter and Sadie precious seconds to retreat. "Slowly now," Hunter murmured. "Back toward the trees." They edged backward, weapons trained on the increasingly angry group of men. When they reached the tree line, Hunter pulled a small object from his pocket, a stick of dynamite. Sadie realized with shock. A parting gift, he called, lighting it with a quick match and tossing it toward the outlaws' horses. The explosion wasn't close enough to harm the animals but sent them into a panicked frenzy, breaking free of their makeshift corral and scattering in all directions. "Run," Hunter commanded, grabbing Sadie's hand. They sprinted through the trees, finding Lily exactly where Sadie had told her to wait. Together, they raced back to their horses, mounting quickly. "They'll follow," Hunter warned as they rode hard down the mountainside. "We need to reach the valley before they regroup." Lily rode double with Sadie, her arms wrapped tightly around her sister's waist. "I knew you'd come," she whispered. "I never gave up." Sadie squeezed her sister's hand. "Neither did I." They rode relentlessly for hours, pushing the horses to their limits. By midday, they had reached a swift, flowing river that would help cover their tracks. Hunter led them across at a shallow ford, then continued south rather than back toward Copper Ridge. "Where are we going?" Sadie called. "Town is east." "They'll expect that," Hunter explained. "We're heading for Blackwater Canyon. I know a place there, an old trapper's cabin. We can rest, tend to Lily, and plan our next move." The cabin was exactly as Hunter described, small but sturdy, nestled in a grove of pine trees with a clear view of the approach. Inside was basic but clean, with a stone fireplace, a small table, and 2 narrow beds. "How did you know about this place?" Sadie asked as Hunter built a fire. "Belonged to an old mountain man named Francois, French-Canadian. Saved my life once during a blizzard." Hunter's expression softened slightly. "He passed 2 winters ago. Left me the cabin in a letter delivered by a Crow medicine man. Said someone else might need saving someday." As the fire grew, warming the small space, Sadie helped Lily wash and change into a spare shirt of Hunter's, comically large on her small frame but clean and dry. The girl was exhausted but seemingly unharmed, falling asleep almost instantly on one of the beds. "They didn't hurt her," Sadie whispered gratefully, watching her sister's peaceful face. "She says they were taking her to a man in Helena, someone who owed Calloway money." Hunter's jaw tightened. "Using her as leverage, common enough tactic for men like that. How can I ever repay you?" Sadie asked, meeting his gaze across the cabin. "By forgetting my name once you're safely back in town," he replied, his voice gentle but firm. "Men like Calloway have long memories and longer reaches. The less you know about me, the safer you'll be." Something in Sadie's chest tightened at his words. "Is that how you've lived all these years? Helping people and then disappearing?" Hunter looked away, focusing on cleaning his rifle. "It's safer that way for everyone." They spoke little after that, each lost in their own thoughts as they prepared a simple meal from Hunter's supplies. After eating, Sadie joined Lily on the narrow bed, while Hunter took the other. The next morning brought heavy clouds and the promise of rain. Hunter stepped outside to check for signs of pursuit, returning with a grim expression. "Riders, at least 4. They found our trail." Sadie glanced at Lily, still sleeping. "How long do we have? An hour, maybe less." Hunter began gathering his weapons. "There's a back trail that leads deeper into the canyon. Narrow and dangerous, but they won't expect it. If we can reach Serpent Pass, we can lose them in the maze of ravines beyond. And if we can't," Hunter's eyes met hers, unwavering, "then I'll hold them here while you and Lily continue on." "I won't leave you to die," Sadie insisted. "This isn't a discussion, Miss Vance." "You're right, it's not." She checked her revolver with determined movements. "We face them together or escape together. Those are the only options." For a moment, Hunter looked as though he might argue. Instead, he nodded once, something like respect flickering in his eyes. They woke Lily and explained the situation in simple terms, careful not to frighten her unnecessarily. The girl showed remarkable courage, quickly helping to pack their meager belongings. "I'm not afraid," she told Hunter solemnly. "Not anymore." He crouched to her level, his usually stern face softening. "That's good, but it's also okay to be scared sometimes. Keeps you sharp." He produced a small wooden whistle from his pocket. "This was my sister's. If we get separated, blow it 3 times. I'll find you." Lily accepted the whistle, clutching it tightly. I promise. They left the cabin through a rear window, leading the horses quietly until they reached the hidden trail Hunter had mentioned. It was indeed treacherous, barely wide enough for a horse in places, with a sheer drop on one side and a rock face on the other. Single file, Hunter instructed. I'll lead, Lily in the middle, Sadie last. Keep the horses calm. They had made it perhaps half a mile when the first gunshot echoed through the canyon. Sadie glanced back to see riders appearing at the cabin they'd vacated. They've found the trail, she called. Hunter urged them forward, the path growing increasingly narrow and steep. Rain began to fall, turning the rocky ground slick and dangerous. Lily's horse stumbled once, nearly sending her over the edge before Hunter caught the reins. We're not going to outrun them, he realized aloud. Not on this trail. Ahead, the path widened slightly into a small plateau. Hunter made a quick decision. We make our stand there, there's cover, and they'll have to come at us one by one. They reached the plateau just as the rain intensified. Hunter positioned Lily behind a large boulder, then joined Sadie in preparing their defense. They didn't have long to wait. The first outlaw appeared around the bend, rifle raised. Hunter fired first, his shot catching the man in the shoulder. The outlaw fell from his horse, which bolted back down the trail in panic. The second rider was more cautious, firing from partial cover. Sadie returned fire, forcing him to retreat. For several tense minutes, they exchanged shots with their pursuers, neither side gaining an advantage. The narrow trail prevented the outlaws from rushing them, but it also cut off Hunter and Sadie's escape. We can't hold them forever, Sadie said, checking her dwindling ammunition. Hunter nodded grimly. I know. He glanced at the rocky slopes above the plateau. If we could cause a rockslide, block the trail behind us. A bullet whizzed past, too close for comfort. Sadie ducked, then noticed Hunter's saddlebags. The dynamite, do you have more? One stick, he confirmed, but I'd need to get close to place it properly. I'll cover you, Sadie insisted, reloading her revolver. Their eyes met in silent communication, a moment of perfect understanding passing between them. Hunter nodded once, then handed her his Winchester. On my signal, he said. When the gunfire briefly paused, Hunter sprinted forward, keeping low. Sadie provided covering fire, forcing the outlaws to seek shelter. Hunter reached an overhanging section of rock, quickly placing the dynamite in a crevice. He lit the fuse and ran back toward Sadie as bullets kicked up dirt around him. Down. He shouted as he reached her, pulling her behind the boulder where Lily waited. The explosion was deafening, sending rock and debris cascading down the mountainside. When the dust settled, the trail behind them was completely blocked by a wall of fallen stone. You did it. Lily exclaimed, throwing her arms around Hunter's neck. He stiffened momentarily, then awkwardly patted her back. We still need to move. That won't hold them forever. They continued along the trail, which gradually widened as they descended into a hidden valley. By nightfall, they had reached a small settlement, little more than a trading post and a few scattered cabins. Cedar Creek, Hunter explained. Small enough to be overlooked, big enough to have a telegraph. They found lodging at the trading post, where the owner, an old acquaintance of Hunter's, provided them with a meal and a room with 2 beds. After ensuring Lily was settled, Sadie joined Hunter on the rough-hewn porch. I sent a wire to the marshal in Helena, he informed her. Described Calloway and his men. With luck, they'll have a reception waiting if they try to reach the city. And us? Sadie asked. What happens now? Hunter gazed into the distance. Tomorrow we head back to Copper Ridge. You'll be safe there. And you'll disappear again, Sadie finished for him. He didn't deny it, but something in his posture had changed. There was a hesitation that hadn't been there before. Mr. Zane Hunter, Sadie said softly. These past days, I've seen who you are, not just a bounty hunter. Not just a man running from his past. And who am I, Miss Vance? He asked, his voice barely audible. Someone who keeps his promises. Someone who risks everything for strangers. She stepped closer. Someone I'd like to know better if you'd allow it. Hunter turned to face her, moonlight silvering his features. Sadie, the life I lead, it's not one I could ask anyone to share. I'm not asking for promises, she replied. Just, don't disappear without saying goodbye. Something shifted in his expression, a wall coming down, revealing vulnerability beneath the hardened exterior. Slowly, he reached out, his calloused fingers gently brushing a strand of hair from her face. I won't, he promised. The journey back to Copper Ridge took 2 days. They traveled openly now, confident that Calloway's men were either trapped behind the rockslide or being hunted by the marshal's men. Lily rode with Hunter for part of the way, peppering him with questions about his adventures that he answered with increasing patience and even occasional smiles. When they finally crested the ridge overlooking the town, Sadie was surprised by the changes already visible. Scaffolding surrounded the burned store, workers busy rebuilding. What's happening? She wondered aloud. The answer came when they rode into town. Sheriff Miller hurried to meet them, his weathered face breaking into a relieved smile. Miss Vance, thank the Lord you've returned safely. He tipped his hat to Hunter. Mr. Zane, your reputation doesn't do you justice. What's going on, Sheriff? Sadie asked, gesturing toward the construction. Town council voted to rebuild your store, he explained. After what happened? Well, folks felt responsible. Everyone's pitched in. Tears welled in Sadie's eyes as neighbors approached, welcoming them home with embraces and promises of support. Through it all, Hunter remained at her side, accepting handshakes and thanks with quiet dignity. That evening, after Lily had been settled in the hotel room provided by the town, Sadie found Hunter preparing his horse outside the livery. You're leaving, she said. It wasn't a question. He nodded, tightening the cinch on his saddle. Marshal in Helena wants information on Calloway's operation. Best chance we have of ending his reign for good. When will you return? Hunter paused, his hands stilling on the leather straps. I don't know that I should, because it's safer. For whom, Hunter? For me or for you? He turned to face her, his expression troubled. Both, perhaps. Sadie stepped forward, determination in every line of her body. I've lost too much already to fear losing more. My parents are home, nearly my sister. I won't lose you too simply because it might hurt someday. Sadie, no, she interrupted. You told me you've been alone since the war, that you help people and then vanish, but what if there was another way? What if you could have a home to return to, people waiting for you? His eyes searched hers, hope and fear battling within them. I wouldn't know how to live that life anymore. Then we'll figure it out together, she said simply, reaching for his hand. Start by coming back, that's all I ask. For a long moment, Hunter stood motionless. Then, with deliberate care, he reached into his pocket and withdrew Lily's ribbon, the one Sadie had given him at the beginning of their journey. He pressed it into her palm, closing her fingers around it. I'll return this properly, he said, when I come back. Is that a promise, Mr. Zane? Sadie asked, her voice steady despite her pounding heart, the corner of his mouth lifted in the closest thing to a full smile she had yet seen. Yes, Miss Vance, that's a promise. 3 months later, as autumn painted the mountains in gold and crimson, a rider appeared on the ridge above Copper Ridge. The newly rebuilt Vance General Store stood proudly on Main Street, its windows gleaming in the afternoon sun. Inside, Sadie was organizing inventory when Lily burst through the door. He's back, she exclaimed, breathless with excitement. Hunter's back, Sadie's heart leapt as she hurried outside. There he was, dismounting before the hitching post. He looked different somehow, his clothes newer, his face less weathered. But his eyes, those clear blue eyes, were the same as they fixed on her. Miss Vance, he greeted, removing his hat. I believe I have something that belongs to you. From his pocket, he produced Lily's ribbon, carefully preserved despite his travels. As Sadie reached for it, their fingers touched, lingering. Welcome home, Mr. Zane, she said softly. Hunter, he corrected, his voice warm. Just Hunter now. Around them, townspeople nodded greetings, no longer viewing him as a dangerous stranger, but as the man who had brought the Vance sisters home. News had spread of Calloway's capture. Hunter's information had led to the entire gang being apprehended near the Canadian border. The marshal offered me a deputy position in Helena, Hunter told her as they walked toward the store. I turned it down. Oh, Sadie tried to hide her disappointment. Another adventure calling? No, he said, stopping to face her. I thought perhaps Copper Ridge might need someone to help keep the peace. Sheriff Miller mentioned retiring come spring. Hope bloomed in Sadie's chest. That sounds like a man putting down roots. Trying to, Hunter admitted. It's been a long time since I've had any. Roots need tending, Sadie said, and patience. I have time, he replied, his eyes never leaving hers. If you do. As the sun dipped behind the mountains, casting long shadows across the street, Hunter Zane and Sadie Vance stood together on the porch of the rebuilt store, no longer strangers bound by circumstance, but two people choosing to write the next chapter of their story together. And on a spring day the following year, when wildflowers carpeted the valley and birdsong filled the air, they were married beneath the old oak tree at the edge of town. Lily, beaming with pride, wore her treasured ribbon in her hair as she watched her sister begin a new life with the man who had once promised. "I'll bring her back to you," and in doing so had found his way home himself.